What's up, everybody? We're back at it on the 49 Chevy today. Basically, I just wanted to give you guys an update because I did get some of the parts hung. As you can see, we got most of the front clip on and a lot of the trim for the driver's side got put on. And today I just kind of want to get in there and cut out some of that transmission tunnel for the drive shaft clearance, because when this thing airs out and lays down, the drive shaft, the yoke, all that stuff's in the way right now for it to lay out, and obviously you can't drive it with the drive shaft tunnel rubbing on the drive shaft. So that's the next thing for the car that I want to get past, is going to be clearancing the drive shaft tunnel. So today we'll kind of just get it cut out, and I want to put the drive shaft in there and just see, you know, where it hits. And obviously, like I said before, if you guys didn't go back and watch my other videos on the 49, the drive shaft is too long, so I'm going to have to shorten it by at least an inch or an inch and a half. So we got to tackle that. I've never actually shortened a drive shaft before, but I mean, I've watched other people do it on their channels and it doesn't look very difficult. I'm going to try to get away with just cutting out the inch and a half, re-welding it, and hopefully it's good enough. But if it vibrates or whatever, if I take the balance out of it, I'm going to have to take it to a drive shaft shop and have them, you know, at least rebalance it for me. So let me get you a close-up shot of what I got done since the last video. So yeah, last time you guys saw this thing, it did not have any of the front clip on it, and a lot of the trim wasn't on it. But yeah, it's looking good. Got the grill put on, headlights are back in it, hood, and yeah, basically that whole front clip. A lot of the side trim I got put on around the windshield and around this door. So all this chrome trim that goes around here got put on. Obviously the fender trim. But yeah, it's looking killer. Definitely looking more complete, like a car again, which makes me happy to see it back together somewhat. But man, look at it all laid out. Looks so sick. I can't wait to get the bumpers put on. I've got all the bumpers and brackets to put on. Then it'll really start looking good. But yeah, so today we want to get in here. As you guys can see, there is the rear differential yoke back there. And you can see that section I already cut out, and you can see how far that sinks up into the floor. I know some of you guys were asking me how much of the trans tunnel you got to cut out to do this job, to get it to lay out, and that was the first section that I had to cut out right away so the car would actually, you know, lay down and the body would actually fit onto the frame. So that's where you're going to hit the first spot. And, you know, I just did a rough cut to make room so that I could sit down so I could get the body all the way down on the frame. And kind of see where the step notches sit in front of the tubs there. And you can also see here where I've marked my trans tunnel trim spot. And basically this is just a rough cut, basically a first cut that I'm going to do. And then if I need to trim any more back out of it, I will just keep cutting back. But I'm pretty sure that's going to be a good enough cut, because the drive shaft's not very wide. It's a pretty narrow drive shaft, and I think that will be good enough for a final cut, but we'll see. If I have to cut more, I will. And the transmission yoke is about right here, and so that's where I'm going to stop my cut here, because the transmission stops about right there. So I'm probably going to leave this section in for now and just trim this out, because I think the drive shaft will actually clear everything if I just trim that out. So, and here is the drive shaft, and this is the drive shaft that came with the car. And the car had a Muncie 4-speed in it, manual transmission, and luckily the transmission yokes are the same, the spline input are the same as that 4L60, so I'm gonna go ahead and run that. So I got lucky on that deal. And I do like this drive shaft because it is pretty narrow, And it's steel, so it should be plenty strong enough for what this car will be doing. And I'm just gonna try to run this thing and use it. So you guys can see on here the balance weights. There's one there and there's one down here. So we're gonna go ahead and try to retain these balance weights and just take out, you know, an inch and a half up here is what my plan is. So just a little bit in front of this weight, and I'm gonna try to keep the weights and hope that it'll still be balanced. But that's only if I can get this cut and get this re-welded exactly straight like it was. So I'm gonna have to take my time. And also you gotta keep this all at the same center line as it is now. So you don't wanna change the direction of the drive shaft when you re-weld it. So I'm gonna go ahead and mark this with a straight line and then line my straight line back up when I weld it, so it stays in the same orientation right here. But yeah, I'm gonna cut out an inch and a half or so to shorten it. So that's basically the plan. Try to save this drive shaft and not have to buy one, because I'm just trying to save money anywhere I can on this project. And basically try to get past this part of the build, because I would love to have my drive shaft in here knowing that it clears and that everything is, I guess, final for the running gear and the drive shaft and the drive line. Everything will be complete after this. And then once I know that everything clears, we'll go ahead and get some sheet metal, some heavy gauge sheet metal, and bend it and just re-weld all this back in with way higher clearance for the drive shaft to clear. Because really, I want to be able to drive this car with it at least fully laid out, you know, going slow, not flying down the road. I mean, not too fast anyway. On a smooth road, I'd like to lay this thing out and still be able to drive it. So I don't want anything rubbing. And that's why I opted for the narrow front suspension, because I'll still be able to steer the tires. As you guys can see, if you're wondering why there's so much room in here outside the tires, it's because I opted for the more narrow suspension up front, so you can still steer it while it's laid out. And that was an option from Speedway on their Mustang 2 front suspension. You can opt for the narrow control arms. It gives you, I think it's an inch and a half on each side, pulls the wheel and tire in, and you guys can really see the difference on that. So basically what I want to do is I'll probably end up running these wheels at first, but eventually I want to get like a 7-inch wide wheel for the front of this, get away from that really narrow 6-inch wheel. But for now, I mean, it looks good. I actually like that sucked in look. I don't like the wheels to be right out at the fenders. So yeah, I guess the next step, we'll go ahead and start cutting that trans tunnel out of there. And then I'm gonna test fit the drive shaft back in it. And then we'll mark the drive shaft and see how much of it we need to shorten. So we'll just, I guess, get into that next. All right, well, we got the first section cut out here. As you can see, those are the pieces. Piece that went over the yoke there. And then this section here, which you guys can kind of see, This is gonna have to be trimmed more. You can see this back seat brace here pretty much gets in the way of the passenger side of that. So basically all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna retain it and just kind of trim around here to make room on this side here. And then I kind of got the trans tunnel straightened from here, so probably gonna have to just trim a little bit on this side to make up for that section of the rear seat bracket that we're gonna have to clearance. But yeah, this is the first section cut out, so we're gonna go ahead and cut this next one out here. And then we'll go ahead and do the one that goes right under the seat. And then after that, we should be able to start test fitting the drive shaft and taking measurements and just seeing what else needs to be cut or if that's enough. So next we'll go ahead and take this side out. All right, so we got the transmission tunnel cut out and I got the drive shaft in here and fitted so you guys can get an idea how much of the trans tunnel I cut out. There's the pieces right there all the way up, and then you can see here the hole and all the way back. And it kind of gives you an idea of how much the drive shaft sinks up into the body. It's quite a bit. Granted that the front isn't down in there. I mean, I can't get it down in there because it's too long. And you can also see why I got to shorten the drive shaft. So with this straightened out, you can see the output seal there on the trans, and you can see how much shorter we need it to be. So ideally, I want to get that ring right there where it rides inside the seal perfectly lined up with the seal down there. And from what I have measured, that is about 2 inches, right about where I want it. And you can go ahead and see I marked the center line on the drive shaft, and that is the 2 inches of material that I'm going to end up cutting out. So this will fit down in there. So that's pretty much what I wanted to get done today. I got to wrap my mind around cutting that drive shaft and re-welding it. And then also I got to go track down some fresh sheet metal to bend up to re-weld the trans tunnel back in. And that's basically all I'm going to do is get some sheet metal and do a nice arc bend in it all the way down one piece. Clean up all this edges here and then re-weld that back in with a nice arch on it. But obviously I got to get this area here cut out and the drive shaft shortened and in place. And if I feel good about how that looks, then we can cover up the hole. And there was I think one, yeah, there's one floor brace I cut through right there on each side that I'm actually gonna take the original piece and re-weld that back together with some extension steel. And there's another one right here that I'm also gonna repair and weld back in with with the arch of the sheet metal. So we'll be fixing these because I want to retain the body stiffness right there. You don't want to leave that just hacked open. It looks terrible from underneath. So I am going to repair those floor braces with a nice, like I said, a nice steel arch over the drive shaft and then mount my sheet metal over that. So I'm not going to do a hack job and just leave that cut open. Those are there for a reason. They help stiffen the body, and I definitely want to put them back in place. So we'll be working on that as well in the near future. But for now, we are going to wrap this video up, and I got to grab a few things to make this happen. And but yeah, some of you guys were asking me in the comments how much of the floor has to get cut out, and you can clearly see what I just cut out there. So, and the car is laid out right now, and it may be going lower in the future, so I'm gonna make sure that I make plenty of room for the drive shaft to sink up in there. That way I'm not hitting the body with the drive shaft later down the road if I get this thing to lay rockers, which I want to be able to do that. So you guys can see right now the back end is still, I mean, it's got a good, I don't know, two inches there of room to be able to lay rocker down. So I'm gonna still work on getting that lower. And a lot of that is the fact that these tires are hitting the top of the inner wheel wells, and these tires are too tall. So if I were to run a much shorter tire up in here, this would actually lower to the ground quite a bit more. And I believe that these tires on here are they're pretty tall. They're like 28 inches, I wanna say. And the tires that I'm looking at, which are white walls that are gonna be on here, are like 26. I think they're right around 26 inches tall. They're pretty short. So that will actually give me quite a bit more drop without them hitting the inner wheel wells. So that's also in the works, is new tires for these wheels. So I'm gonna clean up these stock wheels and just throw some white walls on them and run the caps. And that's gonna let the car actually sit down on the ground quite a bit more with the shorter tire. So if you are wondering why it doesn't lay out all the way, which some of you guys were asking if that was fully laid out, and it is for now, but like I said, if you get a shorter tire on there, it will actually sit the rest of the way down on the ground without having to cut the rear wheel wells out, which I was thinking about doing that, like mini tubbing the stock wheel wells, cutting them out and extending them up. But I may not do that if I don't have to. I'm gonna run these shorter tires that I wanna get, and we'll see how it sits after that. And if I'm still unhappy with the clearance that I get, then I will end up doing the wheel wells. But for now, I'm just gonna shorten the tire height and we'll see how she lays out. So yeah, that's gonna wrap up the video for today. I really just wanted to get in there and get that transmission tunnel cut out and get the drive shaft somewhat mocked up and fitted to see how much, I had to cut out of the length of it, and to really wrap my mind around how I'm gonna rebuild the transmission hump in it, the tunnel. And I wanted to give you guys update shots of everything I got done on it, which I know it's been a second since I posted something. And I did get quite a bit of the trim, and like I said, the front clip got put back on and the hood and all that. So it's looking like a cool car again. So yeah, moving forward on this thing, in the next video, we'll be tackling the trans tunnel, the drive shaft, and hopefully I'll be able to run down some tires for this thing soon, and we can get this thing closer to the ground and where I really want it to be. So lots of little things going on the car right now. There's so many things. I've got a huge list of to-dos on it, and it's just, I don't know, it's at the point on this project where it almost becomes overwhelming with all the little things you got to do to try to get it back to being roadworthy. And the big stuff that I've done so far is kind of, you get something done and it's dramatic, but now when you get down to the small details of everything that you have to do, it becomes quite a big list to make it actually, a running and driving car again. So you guys stay tuned, and we'll get this thing going down the road hopefully this spring. And yeah, I really want to say thanks to all the supporters, all the people that have given me comments. I really appreciate that. And yeah, just the channel's growing fast, and I really appreciate all the support and everything that you guys have done, and I just hope that you guys keep watching this build, and yeah, we'll get her done. So I will see you guys on the next video. Later.